Dither Boy just got a brand new update for Halloween, and there's a lot more to this update than Halloween, but in this video I'm just going to recap what's new, show you where to look for the new features, and obviously tell you how to get updated. So the usual stuff to get out of the way is this update is free. It's free for all existing users, and it's a free edition, as in if you're a new user you don't have to buy the Halloween stuff separately. Everything here is just included in Dither Boy by default for everyone going forward. Exact same system for all previous updates and all future updates. All you've got to do to take advantage of this is go to help and click on check for updates if you've already got Dither Boy, and if you have just got Dither Boy then this will be the file that you get when you install, so nothing to do if you're new here. If you've not got Dither Boy yet and you're just curious, I am only going to be talking about the new features in this update for this video, but I cover Dither Boy plenty on this channel, so you can have a look around, and I will leave all relevant links below as well. But to get straight into this, I've obviously got Dither Boy open here, and you might notice that my colors are different. And you'll notice it even more if I import an image, trying to import something appropriate for the name of this update, which is the Halloween update. So now we've got a Halloween theme. You just need to go to themes and click on Dither Boy Halloween. I just made this for fun initially, but people seem to really like it, so it's now in officially. And I'm just going to start a dither here so I can introduce the three parts of this update that are the bigger features that have been added. So firstly, you will notice now if you go into category, there are two new categories by default now for everyone. First one is favorites, and I'll show you how that works in a second. But the second one is source. So if you click on the source category now and go to palette, it will generate 3 palettes automatically that are from your original image. So this doesn't mean it will give you the exact same colors as in your original image, but it will dither using that palette basically in the same way that, you know, another palette would work. Which means now if I turn up the depth, we've got colors from our original pumpkin image here being distributed with the Floyd Steinberg algorithm and the settings that I've got here. And that will work for any other algorithm you select as well. Now, you might have also noticed that there is a new favorites category as well in the Dither menu for this drop-down menu here. So to manage your favorites now, if you just go to help and click on settings, on Mac, just go to Dither Boy and preferences, and you will land at the same place, which is here. And you can come to this tab called favorites. So now, if there is one particular algorithm that you like to use quite a lot, for instance, I like to use the waveform algorithm quite a lot recently. So if I leave that on my favorites now, it will be pinned at the top of the drop-down menu, so you don't have to scroll through every time. Same goes for palettes. So I've got quite a lot of palettes installed. So if I scroll all the way down here, it might have to load for a second, but you can now favorite palettes if you would like. So if I add the burned palette from contrasts to favorites as well, I'll show you where that appears in a second. And the same goes for presets. So if you have a preset that you always use, like a starting point or something for your dithering, you can favorite that. Obviously we've got some generic actions at the bottom like unfavorite all or unhide all, because you can hide stuff too now, but that's just a small little improvement we added through the settings menu. You've also got paths now, so you can set a preferred location for opening, saving and exporting stuff. And Dither Boy will attempt to use these paths. This was requested quite a lot, but the main problem is a lot of that stuff's just decided by your operating system. So Dither Boy will attempt to use these paths that you set up here first, and then it will fall back to whatever Windows or Mac kind of wants Dither Boy to do. After that, I just leave those the same because I don't really care. But the main part of this new update comes if you click on the effects tick box, because we've added our first ever non-dithering effect to Dither Boy. So this is Epsilon Glow, and I'm going to cover this glow effect in much more detail in later tutorials, but you can still edit your dither settings here with the glow on. So like this looks very, very cool. I might actually have to save that quickly for the thumbnail, but doesn't disable anything, ticking effects. And obviously the tick box says effects, it doesn't say glow. So you can read into that if you like to maybe get a hint for some future updates, because we're not done with Dither Boy just yet. Every time I think we're done with Dither Boy, we're not done with Dither Boy. So yeah, this glow is one of my favorite things we've added ever to this app. I love using this so much. The threshold is designed so that you can basically isolate this glow to a certain layer of your dithering. So for example, if I just go and load a different palette in here, like if I load in blush here, you can see that even though effects is ticked, there is no glow happening, and it's because my threshold is set to 71. So that means that I can either up my contrast in this to bring in some higher luminance valued dithering, or I can adjust my threshold so that it will apply to lower luminance pixels. And basically this just means that, like, rather than having a glow effect apply to your entire dither, you can get it just on certain like patterns or certain clusters of dithering or certain colors in your palette. This is how you get the most out of glow, by making sure you're not just making the whole entire image glow. You sort of want to isolate it to make sure it's like a bit more exclusive. So if I up the contrast on here by loads, this looks messy, but I can just up the threshold so that we're only catching the brightest pixels here in green. And then the rest of my glow settings are only going to affect the pixels that are actually glowing. So you can go and experiment and iterate only on this one glow layer that you've got here with all sorts of different parameters. I'm going to go over all the parameters like individually in an actual video that only covers Epsilon Glow, just to show you an example. So if I go into favorites now, here I've added a couple of palettes to favorites, like handheld. You know I love this handheld palette. In fact, let's reset that. So if I lower the depth a little bit on this handheld palette now, and up the threshold really high. So now I've just got a standard handheld dither here, and you just get it to sort of where I want it to be with the default settings. And for the sake of just showing this off, I'm going to change algorithms to Bayer ordered. So now, rather than having to export this, take it into Photoshop and maybe mask out these green sections, the bright green sections, to add a glow, with the effects tick box enabled, if you just up your threshold all the way, even if you leave all the rest of the settings default, and just slowly bring this down until you find the point at which the pixels that you want to isolate begin glowing. So you see, for me, that's about 57. If I go further, you'll get glow on more pixels and it starts being way too much. So find the sweet spot, 57 for me. Then I can start to add some radius, add a little bit of motion blur, like aspect ratio to it. And so it's all doable in Dither Boy now. Like it just adds like a whole new dynamic to this. So like, to start again, or just show you this from the beginning, obvious big difference here between the skull, this woman's hand, and this robe she's got on. So if we set up a dither, just something really basic, I'll add a Halloween palette in and just up the depth a little bit until we get some nice shading. It's like 5 depth, up the contrast a bit to make the skull and the hand white. So you've got this separation now using our color system between the skull, the skin color, the robe, the background. You could obviously like keep tweaking and mess with threshold, and you know, you could get this even more isolated if you wanted with like a different dithering algorithm like Ostromakov. And this looks cool, and it's really satisfying when you can isolate parts of a dither using our shading system, or at least for me, I find it very satisfying anyway. But now with the effects and the threshold slider on effects, you can just introduce like a whole new dimension to this, basically, where you don't have to have it quite as overpowering as I kind of like it, but even something like this where the glow looks very natural, but it's just leaving the rest of the image completely untouched. And oh, I love this. It looks so good. For me personally, I will be using this glow effect in tons of tutorials. So if you want to learn more about this, just bear with me while I get some of this general content out of the way to make people aware that there's an update, and then we can really get into the specifics and, you know, how to get a better understanding of this and how it works. But I'll shut up about glow now. This was supposed to be a quality of life update, but because it landed on Halloween, or it landed in October, I just wanted to call it Halloween update. So there is just general improvements, like you can rotate your dithering in app now. So if you needed to do that, just eliminates the need for, you know, using Photoshop or whatever else first. If you're working in print, or if you're trying to do animation, then we've now got file export and export depth series. So I'll just export for this one into a little demo folder to show you, and it'll give you a little progress bar, and then it's done. And what it's done is it's given me a series of different depth iterations for this dither. Annoyingly, I am asked this every time I open a picture now for some reason, and I can't, you know, skip between dithers here, but you can see this little preview here, or if I just go and make extra large icons, you can see here, so you can just export like a bunch of iterations automatically now from the depth slider. So if you wanted this as your main one and you wanted some like alternatives to just have a look at as well, if you're taking your work elsewhere into another project file, this will just do some exports with your, chosen palette. So if I change to this one called Glow Stick, and if we do that process again, look, I get these new ones showing up like this, which also a very cool palette, by the way. If you want to get the Halloween palettes, then just make sure you go to extras and color palettes and you can get them there. But yeah, I think I've covered it all now in this video. So obviously, I'm very excited about the Glow. I think the Glow is amazing. I love the Glow. I'm going to cover the Glow to death. There will be lots more content about Epsilon Glow. If you are a Glow enjoyer, then wait for more videos on this because they're definitely coming. Obviously, go and experiment, but if you want to learn all about it, then we're definitely going to do that. But that about covers it for what you need to know to get started with this new update. I always say this, or hopefully I always say it. I feel like I do. These updates would not happen if people who have bought Dither Boy weren't sharing their work online and recommending it to friends and stuff. So I've still not run a paid ad for Dither Boy anywhere. We've managed to like get all this done without any form of recurring payments, any form of subscription service. And obviously it's a lot of work on our end between me and the developer, Danny Void. I will leave him linked below as well. But it wouldn't make sense to do and it wouldn't be possible if not for all the support. So yeah, thanks for giving us enough support so we can make stuff like this because I'm really, really enjoying it. More Dither Boy updates on the way, more Dither Boy tutorials on the way. Just generally more of everything that you've seen in this video on the way soon-ish. Let me know what you think, show me what you make, and I will see you in the next video.